Ellie. Today I'm going to read you the story The Beast and the Bethany from page 111 to page 120. Okay, let's read it. The comic and the cushion. Ebenezer and Bethany returned to the house 2 hours later, each carrying a sack on their back. Bethany's sack contained comics about unruly children, pranksters, and mischievous goblins who enjoyed running princesses' parties, whilst Ebenezer was filled to the brim with ones about superheroes and cowboys. They dragged their sacks into the front of the house and began to read. Neither of them talked because they had done quite enough of that already. Occasionally, one of them would chortle or gasp at what they were reading, and the other would say, "Shh," as Ebenezer read. He felt his eyes begin to tire. The words and pictures turned blurry, and he had to fetch the gentleman's monocle that he hadn't worn ever since it had gone out of fashion over 100 years ago. You look so ridiculous, said Bethany when she spotted him squinting through it. I thought you were trying to be good, said Ebenezer. I am. Aren't good people supposed to be honest? I'm telling the truth that things make you look ridiculous. You might be right, he said as he caught sight of his reflection, but I won't be wearing it for long. My eyes will be strong again once I have the potion. Ebenezer went into the kitchen and made Bethany a large dinner, one that would fatten her up nicely for the beast. He tried a slab of red meat in one pan and boiled a small bucket of tomatoes in another. Dinner time, he shouted once it was ready. Bethany stumped to the kitchen table carrying a goblin comic under her arms. She held the comic open with one hand and forked potatoes into her mouth with the other. That looks interesting, said Ebenezer. The front cover of the comic was a picture of bright green goblin with orange boots and pointed yellow teeth. You can have it, said Bethany. It's mine. I know it is. I bought it for you, and I don't want it to now away. I will just borrow it after you're done with it. No. No? Yes, no. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. But I bought them for you. And yes, and I said thank you, which was very unlike me. And now all the ones in the sack are mine. You didn't actually say the words thanking you. And do you mean that you're not going to let me read any of them? That's right, I don't like sharing. Well, in that case, you're not allowed to read whilst you're eating dinner. Bethany shrugged and closed her comics. She started forking potatoes in her mouth at a rapid pace. If I lend you one of my comics, will you give me a pat? She asked between spoonfuls. Bethany, I will never ever get you a pat. Stop asking me about it. But why? Don't you want to know what it's like to have one? I already know exactly what it's like, he answered, looking a little uncomfortable. A few centuries ago, I had a charming Cheshire cat called Lord Tibbles. Unfortunately, things did not end well. What happened? She asked, leaning forward with interest. Was he a scratchy cat? The scratchy ones are my favorite. No. Lord Tibbles was a perfect gentleman. He was kind and he was fluffy right up until the day the beast decided to eat him. Bethany's mouth curled into an expression of upward honor, but Ebenezer wasn't finished yet. He thought it might be a noble destination to tell her the whole truth about his relationship relationships with the beast. Besides, it wasn't like she was going to be alive long enough to do anything about it. So you know when I said that the beast conjures treats for people who are good? Well, that was a rotten lie, he said. I bring the beast food to eat, and it rewards me with a magical potion and other rewards. Bethany's fork fell from her hand and clattered onto the floor. She didn't seem to notice. The beast was jealous of Lord Tibbles, explained Ebenezer. One day it said it was going to give me any more potions unless I handed over the cat. And what did you say? Asked Bethany, spitting out crumbs of potatoes as she did so. I said goodbye, Lord Tables, and then and then I chucked it into the beast's mouth. He answered, I loved the cat, but I loved me more. I wasn't going to let old age kill me, just to save some animal. Bethany had lost some of her appetite. Thoughts of the beast eating Lord Tibbles made her push the plate away. I think I was wrong, she said. About the pet idea? Yes, no, about you. I don't think you're a goody two-shoes after all. Ha, see, I told you so. Ebenezer wasn't feeling in such a certain mood when he saw the look on Bethany's face. She was looking at him in the way that most people looked when they saw the beast. There were fear in her eyes. Ebenezer didn't like this. He was used to people being afraid of the beast, but he wasn't used to people being afraid of him. You know what? Actually, I think you're right. I suppose I'm a bit of a goody good shoes, he said hopefully. No, you're not. A goody two shoes would never have fed Lord Tibbles to the beast. You're well, I don't even know what type of shoes you are, she said. Have you fed many cats to the beast? The beast doesn't like to eat the same thing more than once, explained Ebenezer, and it doesn't find the taste of cat that interesting. What else have you fed? What else have you fed it? She asked. Ebenezer thought about all the things that he had brought the beast to it. Every antique and every animal, all the extinct creatures and all the ancient artifacts. Bethany was still looking at him in a funny, somewhat uncomfortable way, so he decided not to tell her anything too gruesome. Oh, just a few things here and there, he answered. Nothing that hurried. Is there anything the beast can't eat? She asked. It said it was allergic to trumpets a couple of days ago, but that might have been a joke, he answered. I'm going to feed it one and find out, said Bethany. Hopefully it will explode. If it does, then it will serve right for what it did to me. You will do no such thing without the beast. I will die. I don't care how much smoke he vomited at you, said Ebenezer. Bethany stopped speaking because she was still hurt by the memory of what had happened in the attic. Sorry, I didn't mean that. And look, I know you don't want to talk about it, but I just want to say one final time that I really am sorry about what happened, said Ebenezer. And I know that you must miss your parents terribly. No, I don't, actually, said Bethany. There's no need to try and pretend that you don't. It's okay if you I don't miss them because I don't remember them, snapped Bethany. I was so young when it happened that I don't remember the fire or anything about my life before the orphanage. That's kind of why I wanted the beast to bring them back. I want to know what they were like. No, right, said Ebenezer. Right, I see. I completely understand. Ebenezer couldn't imagine what it would be like to have never known one's own parents. His own childhood has been perfectly splendid. More importantly, he could think of any words he could say to make Bethany feel better. Bethany removed the crumbled photograph from her pocket, the one on the beach with the mustaches, baby carrying man, and the mustached newspaper hoarding lady. Bethany flattened it out and showed it to Ebenezer. This is the only picture that's left of us. I'm the squalling baby in my dad's arms. He looks a bit like you, said Ebenezer as he peered at the picture again. There's some glint of mischief in his eyes. Your mother looks a bit more sensible. Anyone who reads the newspaper is likely to be well behaved. Look closer, said Bethany. Ebenezer held his monocle over the picture and peered more closely at the woman in the picture. He spotted that there was very silly-looking comic peeping out between the pages of the newspaper. Perhaps she wasn't so sensible after all. Every night before bed, I look at that photo and imagine what they were like. Sometimes I make up stories about them. My mother was the spy. my mother the spy, or my dad the astronaut. Or sometimes I may imagine that as a pair of adventurers who are still trying to make their way back from a dangerous mission to the North Pole, said Bethany. She smiled suddenly. She would trade all the stories in her head for a chance to meet them, even if they turned out to be the dirtiest people she ever met. Ebenezer sat in silence, thinking for a moment or two, and searching his brain for a magical combination of words which might make Bethany feel less worried about the fact that both parents were strangers to her. Eventually, he said, "You can keep all your comics, no need to lend me any, and you can read them at the dinner table if you like." It wasn't perfect, and it probably wasn't going to help Bethany feel any better about the fact that her parents were dying, but she seemed happy enough. She grinned and returned to reading about goblins. Ebenezer, meanwhile, was feeling a little tired. Now that his body was aging, he was feeling more worn out by the day's activities. He bid goodnight to Bethany and began to slow climb up the stairs. "Wait!" shouted Bethany before he even made it to the first floor. She ran up to him and sighed. "There are 3 whoopee cushions under your pillow, as well as a toad. You might want to move them before you lie down." Bethany then stamped her foot and ran back down the stairs, totally annoyed. It was no fun being well behaved. Bye!